That's good.
Good?
Yep.
Can we stand for the pledge, please?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, welcome to the February 20th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Plattsburgh Planning Board. There's 12 items on the agenda tonight. This meeting is being recorded, both video and audio. Michelle, could you conduct the roll?
Yep. Ann Brandell is excused, Tim Palmer is excused, Terry Senecal,
Here.
Debbie Blake here, James Sherman,
Here.
Elena Tamer here, and Jay White is excused.
So 4 permanent members.
Yep.
And we have no planning board attorney tonight?
Nope.
That is correct. Mr. Chairman, we had a request before the meeting from representatives from UMS to be moved to the beginning of the agenda due to some time restraints and wanting to be here for that item. If the planning board's willing to entertain that request.
I think we had priorly agreed to that. So the item 9 item will now be item number 1, which is UMS Properties LLC Production Facility Site Plan 2023 request to construct a 433,000 square foot manufacturing facility with material silos and accessory storage area, gas tank farm, area variance required, located at 26 Irish Mill with public water, private sewer, zoned I. Tax map, parcel 232.3-1A, owner applicant UMS Properties LLC. The engineer is RMS, and this is for a detailed preliminary plan review.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll do an overview and then we'll hand it off to project representatives. So here we are. To the north, we have the existing Schluter campus, I-87, along the east side here. This large polygon is just sort of a representation of the project area north of Irish Settlement Road. Zoomed in view of the property, known wetlands that have been delineated. We have those delineation maps. The project primarily takes place right here on the east side of the property. Again, Whispering Pines up here to the north. Just another overview. This is from the end of Whispering Pines, looking into the project site. This is from Irish Settlement Road, looking into the entrance. This would be sort of facing north and east. To the right side of the screen is where you'd be entering Route 22. And just another view. So on this view, you have I-87 on the left side of the screen, and then the project site. And just another iteration of that. These are views of the proposed structure. So if you're entering off of Route 20, Irish Settlement Road, this is the view that you'd see. And then from bottom right corner is what you would see if there was no trees or no trees. There is some that from the Whispering Pines. Again, if you came in from the Irish Settlement Road, this would be the office area that you see. Go over the overall site plans briefly. And just before I hop into this, just a reminder, previously the planning board did issue a negative declaration seeker determination on the project after pretty extensive review of those materials. So tonight's consideration is for details. Again, this is the map that shows the wetland delineation of the wetlands to the west, and then high dry property to the east. Overall site plan layout. So large plan, you see the overall structure, 455,000 square feet about, with the perimeter road around the site. A truck-only access closer to Route 22. Employees and visitor entrance from here, as long as the new connection from the north along Whispering Pines, which would be completely rehabilitated to accommodate truck traffic and employees. The primary entrance is proposed from the south, but there would be some proposed movement of not just trucks, but probably employees as well. To be honest, between the two facilities, as a public road that would be used. Zooming in from the entrances to the south, you can see the proposed entrance slip lane for trucks only here on the east side, and then to the west is the shared entrance, primarily for regular vehicle traffic. This just also shows some of the landscape plantings along with that as well. And this would be the proposed alterations at the north side.
There's nothing that's more closer up the road than this landscaping.
Okay. So as part of this, there's what's that?
The next one has more of the road.
Okay. So along here, there's a proposed request to, there's a paper road on, as you'd see on the previous tax maps, where Whispering Pines actually terminates for public use, and then there's a portion that extends all the way to the highway. That portion is proposed to be abandoned. The highway superintendent had no issues with that, although that has to work through with the town attorney and the project attorney. The applicants come back with a proposal for a 6-foot tall berm and 8-foot tall fence with landscape plantings and trees on the outside of that fence towards the residence. So it'd be berm with trees on top and then a fence behind that. So this would be another point of connection. This is the proposed improvements to Whispering Pines Road, which would be to restore it to an average town road spec. With a little bit of either transfer of property to the town from UMS or easements that grant a greater burden for that road width on the north side, and changing the intersection with Pleasant Ridge Road to be our kind of standard highway entrance instead of having this split island in the middle, a much more uniform, safe intersection with adequate radius for truck traffic. This is a view again from the south, just showing some of the grade change. Pretty significant grade change here. Retaining walls proposed along this route. And I'll go back to the overall plan, just so we can speak to that plan. Sure. Yeah, if anybody here in the crowd needs to see better, you're welcome to move around and get a better view of the screen. I just want to briefly look and see if there was anything that stood out other than the highway. This does require extension of public water along Whispering Pines to be extended to the facility. Obviously, that requires coordination with Clinton County Health Department. Stormwater, there was pretty extensive comments previously from our consultant, LaBerge. The applicant returned with extensive responses to the comments. A revised stormwater plan, revised plan was submitted to us, and we have on file. And I think that's about it from me. So if you folks have any questions, or you want the applicant board to jump in?
Aaron?
Regarding the berm, you're building a berm on top of the built berm, a fence or trees?
So, right, to help screen the facility from the neighbors, what we would propose is that there's actually, on our side, along the edge of pavement, there's a retaining wall, a modular block wall, which helps pick the grade up so that we can maintain a minimum of a 6-foot berm on the backside. So basically it's all soil on the backside. And then we propose a fence on the top edge of that closest to our side, and then trees behind it. That way, anything shorter than 12, 14 feet along this road will not be visible from any of the properties to the north. They'll be
That's
high.
because I think he's probably said trees on top of the berm.
Yeah, both. Oh, yeah,
Both.
fence and trees are on top of the berm.
So I guess, Trevor's done a good job, kind of the overview. We started this project, I think in January of last year, when we first saw the sketch plan. Since then, we have been working with the owners and with all the other involved agencies, going through the steps of all the environmental reviews, the traffic study, the wetlands, et cetera, which allowed you to look at the project back in December for the seeker. You then issued the neg deck for the seeker, which allowed the zoning board to move forward with the variance for the height. As mentioned previously, this northeast corner of the building would be approximately 80 feet from the asphalt parking grade here, but it's actually only 76 feet from finished floor. So the 80-foot height was from the parking elevation, the lowest point. That, along with a variance for the height of the silos, up to 60 feet, located in the northwest corner. So since we've obtained those variances in January, now it allows us to come back before you with detailed plan. So we've addressed the comments from staff. We've had meetings with staff and also Water and Sewer Department, Highway, go over the finite details, addressing all the concerns. There were some concerns previously, and just not to dwell on, what's tough is when you look at it on the screen, the colors aren't truly, I want to say, crisp and true. The intent is the colors. I'm going to provide you a photograph of the other facilities that helps kind of distinguish, the light gray, the dark gray, and the orange. So just so it's, a little more clear as to what the proposed colors are for the building, which we actually match the other facilities on the campus. Again, there were some concerns last month also, or a month and a half ago when we did the seeker, about some potential greenhouse gases. We have been working with the design team and the HVAC design of the facility. And what we're leaning towards right now is electric heat pumps, which would basically draw the heat out of the air and help transfer that into the building to be used for heat. And what that does is, from our original proposal of using, natural gas rooftop units, conventional, we would see a reduction in greenhouse gases of well over 50%. So that 7,000, number would be reduced to, under 3,000 with the proposal. So we have, obviously taken your concerns to heart and met with the owners and the design team to achieve that. So we have submitted, as Trevor mentioned, a lengthy set of plans that include the landscaping, the lighting, the full design, the full grading, the stormwater, all the utilities, all of the phase. One of the other comments in the draft resolution talks about phasing, and there is a full plan that talks about basically installing temporary swales around the perimeter and temporary sediment ponds that allow for the construction of the facility. And then once everything is stabilized in the middle, then we can remove those and finish the perimeter. So basically compliance with state guidelines for erosion sediment control. So at this point, we're basically ready to move forward with the detailed site plan. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. We do have representatives from Food here also to help answer questions they may have.
Trevor, so all the comments that we made in the prior meetings and stuff, they've been addressed.
Yeah, the significant ones, obviously there was public comment, the other comments made by planning board and staff and public. Obviously the variance was a critical one. They did achieve the variance. Stormwater, we had a lot of comments about that. Each of those items was iteratively answered, and a new plan was submitted to us with the stormwater pollution prevention plan, which meets our criteria. The highway issues, we met with the highway superintendent. They were satisfied and happy with the new road design. Water and Sewer Department, Aaron and I met with Scott Stoddard, Director of Water and Wastewater, just a few days ago. Discussed a few modifications or changes. One was this plan spec PVC, we want ductile iron. There were small comments like that, but each of those comments that we've made previously have been, resolved.
Other questions from the board?
Aaron, what is the height of the orange siding on the north side of the building?
on the corners.
Just because you mentioned that the berm would probably height up to 14 feet from that residential neighborhood.
Fine.
Bottom right, yeah.
Right, so I mean, if you figure the top of this is 45 feet, so that's roughly 16, 18 feet. I think it's 25 to the change in color, where we switch over to the dark gray.
I think we did not have orange on the residential facing side of the building, because that building kind of.
The corners here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, if that's, right, it's definitely on the north side, it's less visible, so less branding. We have no objection, if you want to see that gone and leave it, dark gray or something.
It's gonna be a little bright. I love it everywhere else, and I just have to mention that I love the nod to that Schluter piece on the front of the building to the left of the entrance.
Right.
That is so cool.
Yeah, we're still, some of the things that you see, like these, the purpose of these screen walls is, when you look down that's kind of the mechanical alleyway. So the idea is visitors coming in the parking lot, it just blocks that view so you don't see the backside of the operation.
Anyone else? So there's a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. I ask that if you want to speak, if you move up to the microphone so we can get what you say. You don't have to identify yourself if you don't want to, but if you do, it's okay too. And I don't know how many people are here to speak to this, but if you could keep your comments to a limited amount and not try to go over the same thing that the last person said. But we're happy to hear anything that anybody has to say one at a time.
Thank you. My name is Carson Arnold. I live at 14 Washburn Pines Road. I'm totally against this, a lot of reasons. Couple directions I'd like to, Mr. Coleman, they're gonna use the Washburn Pines Road as an access road once this gets passed to have traffic drive up through there along with tractor trailers.
That's what's proposed, is to have, it's a public road now, but to use, not as the primary use, but it would be allowed, it's a town public highway, so the idea is that it would be upgraded, because right now absolutely isn't in condition for truck traffic. So the plan they've submitted here is to, upgrade and renovate Whispering Pines Road to a standard that can accommodate that. So that would be resurfacing, widening it towards the north side on the UMS side, and changing the radius out at Whispering Pines so that it's actually safe and can accommodate and wouldn't deteriorate.
So then on the residential side of Whispering Pines Road, that wouldn't be nothing taken away from to address that road? It's all
That's
gonna be
correct.
taken on the north side?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, the last meeting I was at, back in 2021, there was a 300,000 gallon storage tank. The last meeting, I wasn't able to address this because they told me that was the wrong board. I'm hoping I can get some direction here. Back in 2001, and it was printed here, town of Plattsburgh, they were proposing for a 300,000 gallon storage tank for the water facility, which is good. But then I get a RAM report from the company that did the sprinkler head to make sure the water was adequate and all this. It says that it's a 400,000 gallon water storage tank. So how did it get from a 300,000 gallon storage tank to a 400 gallon tank, which is only half full right now? And according to this report, it's going to take 205 gallons of water to put that facility out, okay? It's only half full. So if it's a 400 gallon facility and it's only half full, it's not adequate right now. If there was a fire, if I read everything right, if there was a fire, there's not adequate enough water to put that fire out. There was already one fire there. The main concern, and I talked to some of the fire department, they're not concerned about putting water on the tanks to keep them cool versus putting the fire out because they already lost it. Now, my main concern is they're gonna put more storage tanks here, 12. What's gonna be in those storage tanks? That was never addressed. More chemicals. And the other plant, they got exhaust fumes coming out of there left and right. There's no scrubbers on there. According to the environmental guys from Schulers and Mr. Madonna, they were working on this in Germany to try to get the preventions of the DEC permits. Right now, they're right at the borderline. That's my knowledge. That's what I was told. The fumes that come off that is nasty. Now, this other facility that they're gonna build, what are they gonna put on there? Exhaust fumes to prevent this? Are they gonna put scrubbers in there? Or are they still working on this, the science in Germany, to try to prevent this, to try to save $4 million? Because that's what it would cost to put scrubbers on that one unit. I was told that they're gonna turn this new facility into a warehouse and maybe a production warehouse down the line. But the first thing they had to do was try to incorporate the fumes that are coming out of now the existing plant to prevent that with a new science so that they can save $4 million. And they were directed at one time to go to the IDA, but they refused to go there to Clinton County because of the landfill. I was told it was going to cost X amount of millions of dollars. Well, they cut enough trees down there. They moved the soil, I don't know how many times. My main concern is they do a good job. The facility is beautiful. I'm not knocking that. I use their products. I've been using their products for years before they even came to North America. But what they're doing here, there's 3 residential, not lots. There's 3 residents that's lived there for over 60 years, okay? Now they're putting, there's light pollution, there's noise pollution. That one facility where they back up to the silo to unload the stuff from the South Junction Road, and you know they're gonna add addition there because of more trucks coming in. But the noise is unstandable. Now this is gonna create more noise, and what chemicals are gonna be put in there? And my idea is they're different chemicals. It's a factory. That's a chemical plant, okay? They went at it wrong completely. I mean, they should come in here with a 5-year term, a 10-year term, and a 15-year term. That way you guys know where they're at. If they came in here and you guys knew all this, the resident should have been notified to know. There's people that's lived there for years. There's grandkids there. Now we got, it's almost like a Berlin Wall, and I hate to use those terms, but you know, and they're gonna do a beautiful job putting a berm there and a fence. I know they're looking at the residents. But my main concern when I pulled out of the driveway there today, just about an hour ago, I had 5 deer coming across there. That pond is full of everything. I addressed this before. Was the Bureau of Indian Affairs ever notified? I was told they didn't have to be. Well, I notified them. So you guys probably be hearing from them because I know there's artifacts all through there. I personally found them. Albany was there, in the Albany University, Albany was there. They did artifacts, they found them all through there. But they do a beautiful job, but they want to ballot it wrong. My main concern is more the chemicals in the air. I walk around through there, I don't even walk there anymore. If there's a heavy loft up here, okay, and it's down, those fumes are right into your face. It's like ammonium chloride. I asked, and they did tests there. They tested along the route. The only comment they made was he could smell sawdust. There's no environmental, but they got to get up top and do the readings to get it precise. But thank you very much. I totally oppose this. I walked through Irish Summit Road in different places and asked different people there. They're shocked that this facility is going to be allowed to be put there. You know, I'd like to see a park put there for the kids. As far as the Pleasant Ridge Road where the railroad tracks come, those 2 railroad signs have been hit so many times by tractor trailers. Just 2 weeks ago, I was walking there. 2 tractor trailers were passing there. Both mirrors hit each other and it was like an explosion. And if you guys walk through there or drive through there, you see how, you know, that's got to be widened. There need to be sidewalks put up there for the kids and proper lighting. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Now, as far as the 400 gallons, how did that get changed? Can somebody address that to me?
You're talking about the existing water tank?
Yes,
That's
sir.
certainly part of this project, but I'm
Well,
not
see,
sure what
okay.
the number is.
The last board meeting, if I could speak, the last board meeting, I told I had to come to this board meeting to find out. How come they get from 300,000 to 400,000 gallons? It was publicized in the paper. We have it here, and now it's all been changed. How did that happen?
I'm not sure that happened, but that's not part of this project.
I understand that, sir.
Do
Sir,
we know how many gallons that water tank is?
Off the top of my head, I'm not aware. We have the project here if they would like to answer that question.
I mean, if you know, if you don't know, it doesn't.
No. The tank is installed for the prior project to help with the, lack of flow that the town could provide. The owner put in a 400,000 gallon storage tank for fire protection.
That's what was approved.
And that was what was the final analysis between working with the town's water and sewer department, the fire department, and also ran fire protection. Should be noted that, this item was brought up during the zoning hearing, and Mr. Imhoff, as the fire commission, reaffirmed to the board and the public that that system is fully operational and working properly and provides adequate fire protection for the existing campus and the proposed building. And there is also documentation in the file from Rand Fire Protection, the fire consultant, reaffirming all of that.
I can say as a general note, generally when the planning board approves something, if there's a minor change, the planning board wouldn't generally, we would pick something like a change of however many gallons up in an as-built. If it didn't change the height, didn't change dramatically the overall footprint, if it changed from 350,000 to 400,000 gallon tank, that would generally be considered pretty insignificant on a site plan of that size, and as long as it didn't impact the public water system or was still shown to meet fire suppression, generally we just show that on an as-built. So that wouldn't be something that would surprise me at all.
So it just got changed because it was okay.
Sounds like they increased it once they got to the engineering.
So why wasn't it revised in the paper and redone all through the paper? It don't need to be.
Wouldn't meet that criteria because the general impact between a tank that's 350,000 gallons and a tank that's 400,000 gallons, pretty insignificant overall. It wouldn't really meet the criteria. That's pretty typical to have a change in a project. Every project has some sort of change from
Yes, sir.
preliminary design to final.
Yes, sir. I've been doing construction 50 years. But my main concern again is I go back and I know you want to move on, and thank you for letting me spend as much time as I've been here. If, according to the RAM report that did the sprinkler head, and what this gentleman just said, I'll back him 100% what he said. But the bottom line is if there's only 200 gallons in that tank and it takes 205 gallons,
I
common
don't know
sense.
where you're getting your numbers, but once again, we're talking about,
This came from-
that's not part of the project that we're talking about.
I understand that. Okay, when I went in front of the other meeting, okay, they told me I had to come in front of this meeting to find out why this. This was the RAM report that was done, okay? The speed of the sprinkler head was right to cover what this gentleman just said. It says it takes 205,000 gallons of water, okay? And if it's only half full, there's only 200,000 gallons.
I guess the
I don't know
question
this
is,
one.
why do you think the tank is half full?
Because the water people are there and there's a reservoir there, there's a red tag, okay? And it tells you the elevation of the water flow, it's half full.
I have no knowledge of that. All I know is the
Okay,
RAM report that we received from
It's been approved.
is that it says the systems will work together and that tank provides adequate water supply to both facilities for fire suppression.
Correct.
Is that the only one?
That tank is designed, it's connected to the public water supply. That tank fills up, fire pumps are engaged if there's a fire, and it uses that quantity of water from that tank to.
If it's exhausted, then yes, you fall back to the town regular water supply.
And it takes less than 2 hours for that to be exhausted at full capacity. But it's only half full, so it's not adequate. And if there was a fire there, but anyway, that's my main concern about the pollution. It's a beautiful building. You need to really look at the application says it's residential lots. There's actually residential, the people's lived there for years and years. They're not lots.
I understand
People
that.
live in them. Okay, have a good night.
Anyone else? No one else for the public hearing?
Are those documents available for the public?
They are.
Do you have like copies or?
If you schedule a time or come by our office, you're welcome to get copies or review any part of the file.
I think you did.
I think you meant you meant more than just the renderings. You meant like the data for like fire suppression.
Exactly, but like, the map.
Yeah, all of it can be obtained. Yep.
You find mine, I don't mind giving them my packet.
If you would like to do that.
I had it.
I think he.
There's a lot of supporting documentation.
Yeah, I think he's
with
looking
that
for
staff has.
all the maps.
So then you'd have to go to the planning office to do that.
You have to go where?
Our
To the
office.
planning office. I can give you my packet, but it doesn't have like all the specific what you made.
I'd just like to point out, right, one of the comments mentioned was historical part of the record. When you did the seeker was a letter from State Historical Preservation Office, which deemed that the project has no significant impact on the historical resources of the area. So it is in the file.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? If no one else wants to speak, I'm going to close the public hearing. So we already covered the secret for this, right?
That's correct. There was a negative declaration issued previously, and we disseminated that notice to all the involved agencies.
And they achieved their variance, got all their approvals, so I'm looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-13.
So moved.
Second.
Michelle?
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer.
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us to speak first.
All right, so now what would be item 2? Landry subdivision 2023 request for 4-lot subdivision of a 5.8 acre parcel, resulting in lot 1 being 1.85 acres with an existing residential home, lot 2 being 1.84 acres with an existing residential home, lot 3 being 0.92 acres with an existing residential home, and lot 4 being 1.21 acres of buildable residential land. Located at 1245 Cumberland Head Road with public water and private sewer zoned R4 tax map parcel 195 dot dash. If you're gonna have a conversation, could you please take it out in the hallway? Parcel number 195 dot dash 1 owner applicant Esther Laundry, surveyor Dean Lajway. Secret determination and detailed preliminary plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one, much less complicated. This is out on Cumberland Head Road, kind of in close proximity to a previous subdivision you folks have looked at. But you have Cumberland Head Road, and the parcel we're going to be looking at for subdivision is this has multiple homes already on the lot, so this proposal is kind of a creative way to get these homes on individual lots. It's all within the R4 residential district, minimum lot size 40,000 square feet. There is public water here, a private sewer, and aerial imagery of some of the existing homes on the site. And in this type of scenario, when you want to separate them out, you got to get a little creative, and that's what it looks like when you get a little creative. But the surveyor did a great job as far as meeting the minimum setbacks, so they all have their own driveways, separations from existing buildings. Really, it turned out that it's meeting the minimum requirements of the town. We had only a few comments. So this lot to the far right does have a individual septic treatment system permit already listed. That's great. We would want to identify, it wasn't clear on all of these lots whether they were independently served by public water or if there was any need for easement. So we just want to verify that if there was any discrepancy there. And I don't see the engineer here tonight, so I don't know if we're going to be able to answer that. Lot 4 will need a highway permit for any new lots. This is the undeveloped lot. The rest of these have the homes already on them. So I can go back and see that there's homes. So to the bottom of your screen is where the new lot would be developed. Other than that, though, it really is straightforward. And even if if we do find a scenario where there's a little piece of a corner of a water line we can withhold, approval and signature of the final plat until they provide us that document or verify that they're gonna move it. It's not really a deal breaker as far as it meeting the town criteria.
So you're just talking about where the lines run, not that each one doesn't have its own water?
Yeah, so on the plan, I think one or two of them, I think this lot clearly shows that it's connected to water, and maybe this one I didn't see. It's one or the other without zooming in. I couldn't quite see. It wasn't clear that it had its own water line coming off of the curb stop, and maybe he wasn't able to verify that, or it's snowy or whatnot. But
Well, you think there'd be a bill?
it would be. We could find that internally. I didn't ask.
Okay, but you can address that.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker if they have to go and we hold off on this till spring and they install another meter or, new curb stop. We've had situations like this before where we just wouldn't want to sign and have them file the plat until they remedied that.
Okay,
But we can work with the water department to make sure that that scenario doesn't happen.
questions from the board? So there is a public hearing on this matter. I'll open the public hearing. Doesn't appear like anybody wants to give any input. Close the public hearing. So the seeker, did you have something?
No, the applicant submitted the part one. We completed a part two and a draft resolution for a neg deck for you to consider. We didn't identify any items in environmental significance. Pretty straightforward subdivision.
All right, well, looking for a motion to accept seeker resolution number 24-05A.
So moved?
Second. Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elaine Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Senko.
Yes. Looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-5B.
So moved.
Second?
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elaine Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Senko.
Yes. Moving along. What would have been item 2 is now 3. I'm not gonna do that anymore. Burnell subdivision 2024 request for a 2-lot subdivision of a 11.9 acre lot, resulting in lot 1 being 0.868 acres with an existing home, and lot 2 being 11.03 acres with remaining land located at 4003 Route 22 with private water and private sewer zoned NC parcel number 245.-4-29. Robert, owners are Robert and Rita Burnell, applicant GR8 Courier Inc., engineers AED. This is for sketch plan review only.
No, for me, I know everyone likes Jess. She'll get to hear from her soon. This is out on Route 22, Warner, Burnell Asphalt. We're gonna be looking up here in this top right corner of this residence. The whole purpose of this really is to separate the residential development from the commercial lot. Subject to a kind of a pending future sale of another development plan. Perhaps this would go through anyway, separating kind of two different uses. So we'll dive in. This is all within the neighborhood commercial district. Behind it to the west is R2. But all along this corridor in this particular area is neighborhood commercial, which allows for light commercial uses. This is pre-existing, actually, what do we determine there? Well, we just determined that this is existing. But we're only going to be talking about the subdivision for now. But looking at the site uses that were on the parcel, again, I said it was part of the paving company that operated from there. And this is the property that would be subdivided. Just some more street views of the site. Anyone who's driven down 22 is probably familiar with it. And this is the residential parcel. The overall plan, the parcel, you can see it's a large parcel, and then the proposed lot to be subdivided out would look something like that, with the remaining lands retaining some frontage and some potential future access to Route 22 along the southern side of that lot. We didn't have really many critical comments. The one that is probably most significant from a regulatory standpoint is that there is an open DEC spill registry number for the whole parent parcel. And even though it's unlikely to be associated with the residential lot for obvious reasons, you know, we probably want to have some sense that they're not related in any way and that there isn't any restrictions on the lot that would be subdivided. You know, also as sort of like a buyer beware situation, we wouldn't want to have that new lot have some type of DEC restriction that we didn't know about or they don't know about. So that was really one of the most significant concerns. Other than that, it's really straightforward, you know, subdivision of a residential parcel from the more commercialized parcel.
How would it be determined that it was not a part of that lot, the residential lot?
Well, there's an open spill, so the spill is known, and what we really probably want to know is whether it's actually been cleaned up with the location, and that's probably known in the DEC file. I don't have it, but I mean, it's actually a good thing that it's actually a registered spill, so there's probably some information about it. Likely, it's, you know, nowhere near that, but we don't know, so it'd be good to know. Mr. Kuhn?
Yeah, I guess to jump in on that topic. So we've already talked to KAS about doing some environmental testing. Usually we just let the experts handle that, but seeing as it's sort of an open question in the short term, we can follow up with DEC and find out what the specifics of that spill case are, which ultimately would get flushed out through the KAS process. But otherwise, regarding the subdivision, it's all zoning attributes for the residential lot are met. We're looking at around a 50-foot access way to connect to the backlands. There is a pre-existing drive there. It's sort of been discontinued. I'm not sure why it was discontinued, but there's sort of a chunk of the driveway missing. We're not proposing any improvements in that area, other than some pavement removal to completely separate the residential parcel from that former access way. Other than that, it's a pre-existing house with its own well, its own septic, its own power, and there's really no interconnection between the Brunel asphalt business and that house, other than ownership. So I don't know if you have any other questions. I'd be happy to answer.
Questions from the board? So if we move forward and the spill will be.
Yeah, I mean, this is just sketch, so what we're doing is just asking more questions and hope when they come back for a detailed plan, hopefully they have an answer about that. Really just to drill down a little bit more, why I have concern is we have other lots in the town that I can think of near Plattsburgh Air Force Base that have been subdivided, and they have what's called institutional controls on them now. So if there was a spill nearby or there's some threat of groundwater contamination, usually there's a tag number on that parcel that identifies institutional controls saying you can't do X, Y, or Z on this lot. So it's good to know when you're subdividing in case there was some type of situation, like unlikely here with these type of spills, but we don't know.
Plus, I think it matters when you have private owners.
Okay.
So there's no public hearing?
No.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-06.
So moved.
Second?
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Dana Hamer,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes. Oh, item 4. GRA Courier Inc. Site Plan and Special Use Permit 2024 request for a change in use from a pre-existing non-conforming use to an automobile fuel station for fleet vehicles for existing buildings for automotive storage and maintenance. A use variance is required located at 4003 Route 22 with private water and private sewer, zoned NC, tax map parcel number 245.-4-29. Owner Robert and Rita Burnell, applicant GR8 Courier Inc. and engineer sketch plan review.
Since we've already talked about the site, I'll just give a few brief comments and then hand it over to the project. One, the most important things on our checklist are that it's been determined by the code enforcement officer that the project as proposed would require a use variance for automobile repair facility. it's not an allowed use in the neighborhood commercial. It's obviously been a commercialized site before, but that particular use on our zoning table is not an allowed use in the neighborhood commercial district. Another one is the same comment about the DEC spill registration. What's going on with that? I'd like some information about that. And then this is a special use permit consideration because an aspect of this project would be an automobile fuel station. Really, it's for the fueling of their fleet vehicles, but they could potentially sell fuel back to their clients who use their trucks. So that would meet our definition of automobile fueling station. It doesn't matter whether you're selling it to the public at large or to individual clients, still considered fuel sales. So we treat it as a special use permit and want them to respond to section 8 of the 8.6 of the zoning ordinance. Other than that, we have pretty straightforward comments, so it may be best to hear from the applicant.
Sure. Jess, would you mind scrolling to the view, or Trevor, of the street view with the building?
Yep.
Probably speaks 1,000 words compared to our plan. Yeah, there we go. So you've all probably driven by. This is Brunel Asphalt Paving Company. There's the main office and garage building that's visible from Route 22. Right behind it is a 550-gallon fuel tank with a dispenser. And then as we saw behind the residence to the north, there's another roughly 4,000 square foot garage building with its own power, and the two garage facilities supported Brunel's business in repair of their own fleet vehicles, albeit different fleet vehicles. The proposed buyer of this property operates courier vehicles, so similarly to what happens today, they'll maintain their courier vehicles in the two garage buildings. As part of prospectively taking over the property, we saw the fuel tank there, and it does have a theoretical value to them to use it with fuel sales. That said, as we met with Trevor and Jess and Steve during a pre-sketch conference, we talked about how it's not a grandfathered and allowed use, even though the vehicle maintenance was ongoing now. So that moves us into the going in front of the ZBA for the use variance. But in terms of the fuel sales, we're still evaluating whether that's a viable part of them using this facility, or given the history from what we're finding out that it's not a regulated fuel tank and dispenser with DEC, it might be more red tape. So we might drop it all together when we come back in front of you in the coming months for the detailed plan. So if in fact we do drop that, then that takes away the special use component.
Agreed.
So when we see you next, it might just be, for detailed plan review for site plan. Could you go back to the site plan, please? Oh, wait. So essentially, function-wise, the facility will operate in the same way. All vehicle access will come through the driveway in front of the main admin and maintenance garage. As part of the purchase agreement, the seller is going to get rid of all of the existing vehicles, tires, tanks, everything is supposed to be gone. So, the finished product will be removal of everything that you see in the back lot. And then there's this is pretty much all paved. So this will be the parking area for the fleet vehicles that are awaiting or finished from maintenance, which we envision about 20 to 25 vehicles. So as you can see, there's an expansive pavement area. The vehicles will be off the road, not really seen here. The front area will be for the employees of the business, around 10 employees or so. So adequate parking exists for them to occupy, adequate, vehicle storage area to have the vehicles. And then the driveway communicates to this back garage for maintenance back there. To separate it from the current residence, we're proposing a 6-foot-high opaque fence to be a solid barrier between the two. And other than that, It's really just gonna be sprucing up the building, painting, refreshing gutters, things like that, so that the streetscape is improved from what you see today. And then otherwise, they'll look to occupy and use the site similar.
Where's the tank?
What's that?
Where's the tank?
It's right here.
So if you don't go for the variance or get a variance, you'll remove the tank. But if you get the variance, you wouldn't be expanding the tank, you would use that existing tank.
So we need the variance just to occupy the buildings for automobile maintenance. So the tank is really only specific to the special use permit.
550 gallons isn't really a lot for filling up multiple vehicles.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Where are we? There's no public hearing. So I'm looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-07.
Second.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer, yes, Harry Senecal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 5, Turnpike Wesleyan Church Site Plan and Special Use Permit 2024 request to construct a 3,000 square foot accessory building to an existing church facility located on the Turnpike with private water, private sewer zoned R2, tax map parcel number 191.3-2-2. Owner applicant, the First Wesleyan Methodist Engineers AED, seeker determination and sketch plan details, preliminary plan review.
All right, this is I think most people know where this is on the turnpike north of 374. Very, very big, very visible. The only reason that this triggers site plan review is because of the size of the pavilion, because it's over 1,000 square feet of site change. Otherwise, pavilions generally don't get site plan review, so that's why you're seeing it. It was originally proposed to be right here on the right side of the parking lot, but last week, kind of a last minute alteration to move the pavilion to the back corner here, which we all kind of think is best for not only visual reasons, but safety reasons too, running children and stuff like that. So I didn't have any site plan comments for this one because it's very straightforward. But I will show you the rendering of what it'll look like. And I did ask Mike because there had been questions from you guys during review about lighting and stuff like that, but there will be lights underneath the canopy structure. But that's all I have, Mike.
Yeah, so lighting, they're proposing a few hanging barn style fixtures from within the structure itself. Nothing would be outward facing. But essentially it's a pre-engineered steel pavilion on a concrete pad, and it's for general recreation use by the churchgoers.
You know if they'll have the lights be switchable, or will they be on at night for safety reasons and just have them on all the time? Or?
I don't know the answer to that. I would guess it'd be switchable, and they'd only turn them on when they're needed. James Cutter is here from the applicant. Is that the case?
I would expect, Trevor, that we'd have at least a couple, 1 or 2 high pressure sodiums, like we have along the church at night. There's 4, I think, along that one wing. We would probably have, I don't know, 1 or 2 out there too to make sure. It would also, it would light that back corner of the parking lot a little more too, so.
Yeah, we'll want to pay attention to that. We certainly don't oppose it being lit. We have some lighting guidelines now at the town where they at least need to be shielded, so it's
right
facing down. But
We can just catch that on the as-built.
yeah.
So I have a comment. I think everybody kind of knows my comment. I just don't think that it's a very attractive building, especially for a church. And, we have lovely pavilion in town at Katyville Park, and it's a nice one downtown behind Georgia Pacific. And I just thought maybe we could tweak the design a little bit to make it more attractive.
So unfortunately, this isn't our design.
I
This
know,
is like a
I don't know
package.
who chose this, but
Yeah.
it certainly wouldn't be something that I would consider doing all things as unto the Lord.
Is there a way to do like add-ons after, like maybe put like brick on the bottom of the post to kind of pull in the brick from the church, or like, I don't know.
It kind of looks like it belongs in behind Jeffords,
It's very industrial,
yes.
for sure.
Now it's gonna be by the boat in the jungle gym, from what I understand, correct?
Right, so it'll be much further off the road, and in the rendering that, you guys must have cut and pasted these pictures off our rendering. We had it shown where we originally thought it was gonna be, and by sliding it back, it's quite a ways off the road, so the hope is that appeases some of the aesthetic concerns, but I think, it is a pre-engineered steel package. We had talked about whether you try and put something in the front gable to, close off this area a little bit.
Even that would be nice.
But it's one of those things, you gotta go to the steel company and make sure that it works. Yeah, that's potentially an option, but I don't know much further on that yet.
Like, to me, it looks like you need to get those big hay rolls and put them in there. But that's just me. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
And I would hope that we would like to see our town looking attractive and beautiful, but anyway, aesthetic is in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
Yeah, just it doesn't tie into the church at all as far as aesthetic goes, which makes it kind of stand out more.
It's the same color as the roof.
Sure. Sure. But, no, it is what it is.
Other questions? No. So there is a public hearing on this. So I'll open the public hearing. Anybody else have anything for this? Looks like a no, so I'll close the public hearing. So looking for a motion for 24-08A. So move.
Second. Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to accept resolution 24-08B.
So moved.
Second.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer, Terry Senecal.
Yep.
Thank you.
Item 6. YMCA Site Plan 2024 request to construct a 13,255 square foot addition to an existing facility with a parking lot extension and associated site improvements. Use variance required, located at 295 New York Road, with public water and public sewer zoned NC, tax map parcel number 223.5-29. Owner applicant YMCA of Plattsburgh, New York, and the engineer is RMS. This is a secret determination.
Alright, this one's me. So I think you guys are relatively familiar with this site now on New York Road. Last month, we talked a little bit about how it backs up to the Connecticut Court project. And that this is a pretty major renovation. It's been in the news a lot, so everybody's pretty aware of this one. Tonight, you're only doing the seeker review because they did not get to go before the ZBA this month. ZBA meeting was canceled, so they did not get the use variance. Pretty sure that they would be getting it the next time the meeting occurs, but that's not for you guys to decide, so you're only doing seeker.
Oh, I should mention, I'm recused myself from this review because I'm still listed as a board member of the YMCA.
Listed or active?
Listed.
I resigned a long time ago, too, don't worry.
The only other comments that we had was about the standard one about working with codes about signage, because obviously they're gonna wanna put a very large YMCA sign on that, and that's something we don't do. The other question we had was if there was any planned improvements at this time for the athletic fields that are shown on the site plan, in this back corner area. And just so everyone knows, the subdivision that added this piece of land was done administratively, so it was not before the board. So that's all we have for comments.
So I guess real quickly, right, I mean, when you think of it, the 13,000 square foot addition really is the reconstruction of the 13,000 square feet of the front portion of the building where currently have all their rehab offices, administrative offices. That would be removed and create a two-story. The pool would get a facelift, and the gym would remain. So those two portions stay. This portion, the parking lot pretty much exists now, would get re-overlaid and restriped, cleaned up a little bit with some new landscape islands in it. So the only real new, impervious area is this piece of parking in the back. So all those words, a 13,000 square foot addition is really, a facelift, a remodel with a slight expansion to the back. So as you're aware, the YMCA has purchased the property from CVPH, looking to make this their, new headquarters here in town. So again, we're only here for seeker, as the zoning board did not meet. So in order to keep the funding and grant writing process moving forward, one of their checklist items is the seeker. So that's why we've requested that you at least continue with that so we can proceed with those items while we're waiting for the zoning board to hold a meeting. Which is kind of ironic because it was constructed as a gym and fitness center. It was used by the hospital as a fitness center. It's owned by the Y, the fitness center, but because we're renovating it, it's an alteration to a pre-existing non-conforming. So therefore it needs a use variance. So the use is not changing for what it has since 1985, but
Damn the rules.
at the end of the road, you still need it. So
When will we be able to see the facelift?
I think we provided elevations. So we're not the architect of the project, AS is, but
Yeah, where are we?
flipping through so quickly.
Right there.
Right. So really, the idea is, the whole new, this is obviously the existing pool area here. That's the gym off on the back. So it's this two-story in the back here, which you're looking at is here, kind of this piece here that redoes the front. And so obviously you have some workout spaces. The second floor is indoor track and workout space above. So really it's trying to match some of the, branding of the Y, corporate Y.
Put hay balls in there.
So, yeah. But again, stormwater, pretty straightforward. We're basically, so we actually provide the full detail package. So, everything was already included. So the stormwater, we're looking at porous pavement because everything else is already existing. So just for that expansion, using porous pavement allows us to not have to put in a larger pond where, mosquito trap and shallow groundwater out there. So it's the simplest and easiest way. A little more expensive, but most practical in this situation. Water and sewer services already exist. The footprint matches, so really, there's not a whole lot of change from what you see now. So.
Assuming you get your permits and variances and so on and so forth, how long are we looking to get this completed?
Our goal originally was, to start ground early spring due to this, funding and the variances and this and that. We're still definitely looking at being out in the street to bid this spring with construction starting this summer. As soon as Trevor makes a big donation.
He's done a great job fundraising. The director. Just out of curiosity, nothing to do with the site plan, but do you have insight as to what's going to happen to the downtown facility?
Downtown is a big question. They are looking at keeping their current relationship with the city, where they rent the old base gym and operate that.
Okay.
So that will remain. That way they have the fields there also, and they have those facilities there.
So Brinkerhoff Street.
Brinkerhoff is, kind of the white elephant. If you want to buy it, I'm sure we can strike a deal.
The hotel.
There you go. That building, the problem with that building is just its outlet is used. It's too small. It's too old, and it needs more work than this building does.
But it's a key location downtown. I have no comments. No.
James, nobody? So there is a public hearing for this. I'll open the public hearing. Oh, what's this, right?
YMCA?
Yes, public hearing. No public hearing?
Public hearing.
No public hearing required for secret. We have to do a public hearing at the detailed plan.
I read this right.
Oops.
It's a great policy, but. a public hearing-
So there is no public hearing, never mind.
But if you want to speak, we'll listen.
Well, no, my big question is just so did we notice for public hearings?
Yes, because we were doing a detail.
We did get detail on it.
Okay, so just here's the detail. We noticed for a public hearing because a detailed preliminary plan was on the agenda. Because they didn't
So
get
do we
the
have to
variance.
have it anyways, though?
I gotta
Usually we
work, I
do.
gotta work my brain through it.
Usually we do.
Give him a minute.
And because, but, yeah, well, right, she's used to it. No, well, my point is I wanna get it right. We, noticed for a public hearing because originally the detailed plan was on, but the zoning board meeting was canceled, so they did not get a variance, so they said, let's not go after the detailed plan, cause you couldn't get it. However, they could still get a seeker approval because the environmental review process is the same. I'd say it's a toss-up. I don't have an attorney here.
Notices went out, wouldn't it be just as good?
Just
to
do
have
it.
It never hurts to do it,
Right, let's just do it.
but it's not required under seeker, but
There
since
I
we
was,
noticed that we should
so
do
there's
it.
a public hearing, I'll open the public hearing.
Yay.
Nobody, public hearing's closed.
It's important to get it right.
Oh, you're not the public though.
That's right.
You say something anytime you want. So, looking for a motion to accept seeker resolution 24-09.
So moved.
Second?
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Seneca.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 7. New York Road Department Site Plan 2023, request to construct 28 units of multifamily housing with associated improvements. Use variance required located on Kansas Avenue and New York Road. With public water and public sewer zone A2, tax map parcel 233.-5-16. Owner applicant, Matthew Taylor, the engineer is RMS. This is a seeker determination and detailed preliminary plan. Jessica.
So you guys saw this project in August. For those of you that are familiar, this is where what was Prime Link before they sold and broke up. Prime Link also owned this property. This is on the corner of Kansas and New York, right across from Seton. Is off screen right here. And it's zoned A2, but they got the use variance in September, I believe, or around that time. And in that time, they've completed their detailed plan. We don't have a lot of comments, other than that they got a use variance that is to be marked on the plan. I did have a question about fence material, but after talking to the applicant, it sounds like the fence may be removed from the plan. The fence that's behind, there's a, it's hard to see, but there's a fence proposed right here behind the central apartments.
What pictures?
More pictures. Nice.
And then there was also a comment from the water department that came in late about switching, I think it was sewer lines from 6-inch to 8-inch, and then adding cleanouts. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
So we were before you, Jessica mentioned several months ago, proposing 28 two-bedroom apartments, a combination of 4 and 6 unit buildings. Seton Catholic here, remember Prime Link behind, and then the recent Plattsburgh Manor apartments located here across the street. It did require a use variance, which we were successful obtaining, so we're here tonight looking at a detailed site plan. So as we mentioned, total of 7 buildings. They would be built over phasing, basically as the market can absorb them. So what we've done, I think you might have on the last site plan had the phasing lines on it, but basically what it is the site's graded from southwest to northeast. And what that does is we really utilize this front area here for some groundwater infiltration and detention. So phasing wise, phase one basically builds the stormwater facilities that are required based on the grading plan for this unit and also this unit. So therefore, the first phase with the road and the parking gets you the stormwater for that. And then when you do the next one, that stormwater is already built in. When you do phase three, that has stormwater with it, so that when you do 4, the stormwater is already addressed. Similarly, 5, the stormwater, 6, et cetera. So it's set up that each piece can be done independently. Obviously, because taking on 28 units, I'm gonna build at one time significant lift. That really looking to do this, as the market can absorb them and as we can build them. But we provide you the landscaping, the full stormwater design. We provide you a rendering for a little better clarity than just the flat elevation views. So we're giving you the lighting and everything else. And really, it's just tonight we're looking at detailed approval. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Questions from the board?
How big is each one of these apartments?
Roughly 1,200 square feet, but they also have a attached garage, a 2-car garage.
see that,
So
yeah.
it's, I think in total, there's, right around 16 with the garage.
They look similar to the duplexes at Lake Forest.
I'm sorry?
They look similar to the duplexes in Lake Forest.
Honestly, I'm not familiar with Lake Forest ones. Not there yet.
It's around the corner from
Not
you.
there yet.
No. So, I mean, it was nice. I think, we've really tried to gear this more towards a higher end market, larger living space, make sure there's plenty of room for a dining room table, make sure, plenty of room for laundry, master bedroom, primary bedroom, 2 bathrooms. So, really trying to provide, more of a higher end living, which is, as I said, similar to what you see diagonally across the intersection.
King size bed in the bedroom?
Yes.
Nothing else.
Nothing else, exactly.
Aaron clarified something about stormwater for different phases, and Jess had made a comment on number 4 that we wanted to see all site work completed with phase 1 so that the subsequent phases, when you provide an updated plan, could you at least identify phase 2 stormwater? What's associated with that?
Yeah, that's real. It really defines why the phase lines are where they are, so that's the stormwater, where each one drains to. You obviously address stormwater as you go, and what it works out is that northeast pond is the deepest one, and they step up, so it allows you to build those later without negatively impacting the one you already did.
So we would just need you guys to agree to that amendment, because that's not what this says, and then when you guys adopt the resolution, you adopt our comments. So you just need to agree that you want that comment.
For the phasing for the stormwater.
Yes.
You also may want to link approvals to provision of Zook subs.
Free.
We'll have to grind.
We do have the applicant here.
Coupons is okay.
Okay.
Coupons. Coupons.
I can do that.
Are there other questions? From the board? There is a public hearing for this, so I'll open public hearing. Doesn't appear that anybody's here for it. Close the public hearing.
Just one question, those are units that are gonna be sold, they're not similar to what is built.
No, they are rented, so the property is
Rented?
completely owned by the Taylors and managed by the Taylors, with each unit is a rental. They are not condominium.
Yeah, they're all on the same lot.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not something set up like we've got sitting behind the plaza.
No,
Okay, that's my question. Okay.
The plaza is condo? No, it's not.
I think he's referring to, what's the name of it, Trevor, the housing?
Are you talking about Homesteads and Ampersand, or?
No, the other
Oh,
one.
not the one on Ampersand,
The one right here is down the road.
The ARC one, the Karen Place, or?
No,
The newest one.
The one
Newest
that's
one.
not the
Oh,
ground
right.
way.
Owned by the doctor's office.
Right
North
there.
Place.
The
That's
one
not
that cops
common.
are at every night.
No,
That's right.
This is market rate.
right, it is full market value,
Okay.
unsubsidized.
We need more of that.
So this is the opposite end, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Jessica, Secret?
Yep, the project completed at part 1, we completed at part 2, no significant environmental impacts were identified.
Beautiful. So I'm looking for a motion for the seeker, right? And then we'll address so motion to accept seeker resolution 24-10A. Second.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Melina Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes. So then the next resolution, we're just gonna make sure that
Michelle will include that in the comments.
for the drainage for each phase is,
Phasing for the forward to the plans. Yeah.
the applicant's good with that, right? All right. So motion to accept resolution 24-10B.
So moved. With coupons.
Debbie and
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Melina Tamer,
Yes.
Terry Senecal.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I gotta go get those coupons. I'll be back.
So item 8, South Junction Road, grain elevator and silo site plan and special use permit 2024. Request to install 140-foot grain elevator and up to 6 38,000 cubic foot grain bins over multiple phases to an existing rail car facility. Area variance required, located in South Junction Road with private water, private sewer zoned I. Tax map parcel number 246.1-1-32, owner applicant Tanner and Troy Maraby. And the engineer is RMS, this is a sketch plan review only.
Congratulations, Plattsburgh, you know you hit it big when you get your first grain elevator.
That's on South of the Junction.
Big time stuff. Here we are, South Junction Road, I-87 to the left. We've dealt with this property quite a bit. It used to be Atkinson property. You've dealt with it with the Bearby Brothers multiple times for rail spurs for the transload facility. You've previously approved, you can see this aerial imagery is getting a little old, but the 2 main spurs, I believe it was almost 2 years ago now that the 3rd rail was approved. It has not been constructed yet, but what's proposed with these grain silos would be, part of that overall project. This site is all in the industrial district portion of their property, in A2, but all the area we're looking at is in the industrial district. This is the view you're probably familiar with in South Junction Road. And then some aerial images of the site. So you can see the 2 active rail spurs. The 3rd would be located down in this area. There's some grade change there. You can't really tell from here, but pretty significant grade change drops off. So the other line would be much lower in grade. And then the overall plan, I think I can do a zoomed in area. So going back out briefly just so we can take a look, we're gonna be looking kind of in this zone here, down here in this flat lower spot. And like I said, there's pretty significant change from here to there. And Melina, you had asked in the pre-meeting, what's a grain elevator look like? There's a schematic image of kind of what they're looking at. So if you look back here, this would be the them all in a line, and then the grain elevator here. So this is basically, what's proposed. Few significant things before I hand it off to Aaron. It does require a variance for height. 40 feet is the allowable height. This is 140 feet. So significant, but the actual structure itself kind of, it has that kind of look and feel of almost like, cell tower type situation, which a lot of those are actually not even that tall. Overall, our basic comments were pretty standard, pretty basic. The other rail has not been constructed yet, though, so if any elaboration on timeline for that, how it works in with this project would be great. But, you know, it's one of these situations that looks big, sounds big, but it's kind of 6 tanks and an elevator. Aaron, what do you say?
Yeah, so pretty, I'm gonna go back to that.
You wanna go back to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it really, what this allows us to do is you can see here's the rail car. And what it does is it allows us to basically empty the rail car into a pit under the track. The materials then, conveyed and vacuumed up to the top of the tower. And what it does is the reason for the height is it allows you to gravity feed, so although for the first one, it seems kind of why you're so tall if it's only that big. But what it does is if you look at future growth and adding additional silos, the problem you have is, if you're not tall enough, you can't gravity feed comfortably to the future growth. So if you look at, a great example might be like 276 Route 11 up at Champlain. You have a very similar situation where you have the silo feeding, you're feeding multiple silos. So that height gets you to feed those multiple locations. So that would be constructed part of because obviously, when we do the third rail. But as Trevor mentioned, this is the floor of what used to be the sand and gravel pit. So we are 25, 30 feet lower than the existing rails here, which is lower than the adjacent highway. And then we also have the high power lines here. So we've already made the submission to FAA to verify no hazards. Our goal is to be in front of the ZBA next month to get their acceptance. What is unique, and it was kind of what I looked at, is when you look at the alignment of the flight line, with the interstate just to our left and Schluter's building, where we got the 80-foot variance, Schluter's building is actually closer to the flight line than this location. The flight line actually kind of comes off on an angle over here, so we're further away than Schluter's. So we're not expecting any issues, but obviously, once we get the FAA clearance, we'll then go to the zoning board, which will allow us to come back to you for detailed plan. But really, with the third rail already been approved, there's no real site improvements because if you saw in the aerial, this whole gravel area already exists. So really, it would just be the construction of the foundations of the silos. So,
Aaron, just going back to this, just so it's clear. So the idea of this distance is, so, that shows the 1, but eventually there'll be 6 to.
potentially as the market grows. Yeah. Right now, there's 1, but we hope to see it grow. But the idea is we don't want to put in an elevator that's short that we'd have to then buy a new elevator. So
that height's required so you can get gravity feed all the way to the farthest one.
Right. So, obviously, the Bearbees are here tonight. If you have any questions for them, they enjoy this process.
We waited for it. Questions from the board?
The only thing else I'd add is it's a special permit because it's the rail facilities, and this is associated with rail facilities, so it's an expansion of that along with the spur. So it triggers special use permit review. So our typical comment about answering the Article 8.6 standards requires referral to the county under 239M. Obviously, it's the airport is nearby and the highway, so both of those things trigger it. So, after this process, we'll send it along and see if they have any comments as well.
If we get that back.
So, Aaron, when this is built, it's gonna be down in a gully, so to speak. How many feet would you actually see above the?
Really, from the road, if you go back to that photograph from the road, really, go back one more. I mean, you can't see the power line, that high transmission line that runs through the middle of the quarry. So they just replaced that, last year and put, I think there's 75-foot steel poles on top of the hill that you can't see those based on the tree cover. I doubt you would actually see it from anywhere.
Well, Schluter is having a, what, 80-foot?
80-foot, but it really is the mass of it. So when you think of Schluter's is 900 feet long.
No, I realize this is 80 foot, and if this is 80 foot down, then it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's down from the high grade here. Like I said, you're probably 40 feet down. So I mean, it's
not.
Then you look at being located, here, that far off the road is, 1,200 feet off the road. So it's really, I don't think you'll ever see it from there or the interstate.
Exactly.
You'll be able to see it from a plane.
Yes, you will. I'm not sure your question got answered about timeline.
No, I didn't hear.
Rail and you have to put a rail in for you to build that.
We can answer that.
So a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, the approved third rail that you guys already approved before, and the silo and the pit, is all part of the 2021 New York State DOT passenger rail freight grant that we won in 2022. And that's why we're bringing the rest of it in front of you right now. We're hoping to get this stuff going maybe spring, summer of this year. We finally have all the approvals and stuff. So we're hoping to get that going, and that's kind of how it coincides with the third rail spur as well. So the reason for this as well from a functional standpoint is it allows us to utilize our track space and our rail car space better. So right now, everything that we unload out of rail cars goes right into tractor trailer trucks. So if there's no truck, no rail cars are getting unloaded. So I think it lends itself to being more versatile towards the community as well, as far as we can utilize this rail spur better and our capacity better.
See a business keep expanding.
Is there demand
Good
for
for
the
you.
grain?
Yes, so we've been doing grain for 8 years now, as well as we do a lot of sand and cement for Schluter, as somebody said before. So we've grown pretty substantially. We did 768 rail cars last year, and we did 70 the first year in 2017. So
Good.
it's been really
Oh, darn.
8 years. 8 years it's been now.
That's great.
It's good to see a business expand.
Absolutely.
Now we appreciate all the approvals that you guys have given us for the project.
Does anybody else have more questions? There's no public hearing. So I'm looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-11.
So moved.
Debbie Blake,
Yes.
James Sherman,
Yes.
Melanie Tamer,
Yes.
Harry Seneca.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 9, South Junction Road Office Building Site Plan 2024, request to construct a 644 square foot office building for an existing rail car facility with 11 parking spaces for employees and clients, located on South Junction Road with private water and private sewer zoned I, tax map parcel 246.1-1-30. Owner applicant Tanner and Troy Barbie.
BRB.
Sorry.
There.
Engineer RMS. And this is a sketch plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly walk you through again. Okay, just down the street here, so you can see the parcel we just talked about. Gentlemen have bought several parcels along here. This is another one that they have. So this is located down the street. Zoom in a little bit, you can see the railroad tracks just behind them.
The wood processing proposal was the one, the flagship one.
Right behind it.
No, one more.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
right. The other side of the.
across the tracks.
Right.
So and this is also just an industrial district. Do we pull up the zoning map from that one?
Yeah, zone 9.
Okay, right, just, I'm quizzing myself more than anything else. Zone industrial, here's the, view of the site using street view, wooded lot. And pretty basic site plan, driveway in, the building at the end, basic layout, at least what's proposed is mostly remaining wooded around, on-site septic system, private water. Our comments, given the size and scale of this, are pretty straightforward. Coordinate with codes for signs, you need a highway permit, any ISTS permit for the private septic system. That's really about it, just given its scale and scope and size. Allowed use in the district, so really typical kind of boilerplate comments on this part.
Questions from the board?
Is there a reason to have the office on this piece of property versus where you're doing all of the work?
Yeah, so for the last 8 years, we've been doing our business in a 8x10 building. And when Schluter comes over and brings 8 or 10 people, we're like tucked in there, So this is the last commercial piece of property we bought. We currently own all the commercial property on the north side of South Junction now. So this is the last piece we bought from Menard. It was a 1 acre lot, and it just sort of fit, I think, for us. Once we think we see the potential of South Junction growing and everything, this will be really centralized in the middle, And with it being a 1 acre lot, we thought that we should have a little office there and a little boardroom so we could sit, and so that's really what we're thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else? So there's no public hearing for this. Motion to accept resolution 24-12.
So,
Second.
Debbie Blake,
yes.
Stephen Sherman,
Yes.
Melina Tamer. Yes. Terry Senator.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 10. Solar Power Network 5 megawatt site plan and special use permit 2024 request to construct a 5 megawatt community solar farm with a 16-foot wide gravel access road and related site improvements subject to the town of Plattsburgh solar local law, located on Route 3 with public water and private sewer zoned R2 tax map parcel number 205.4-3-38, owner Rose Enough, applicant Solar Power Network, and the engineers RMS. This is a sketch plan review only.
So to orient you guys where we are, Bank Road, we're, north of the screen. This is VHSN. You really can't see any of this parcel that you would know from the road because it all looks either wooded or is blocked by houses. Most of the solar farm construction would be this portion, mostly the cleared area. A lot of this is wet and requires clearing, which we also limited in our recent edit of the solar local law. This is your first one actually reviewing under the new amended law, so the site plan does look a little different than probably what the last few you guys have seen. Namely, the 75-foot setback is due. And then during the pre-meeting, we had talked about that we had referred this project to the city because one of their water transmission lines from the reservoirs in town goes through this parcel, and they are working with Aaron and the applicant to address that concern. This will also require subdivision, obviously, because there's 4 lots shown here. And we did note that there is a lack of road frontage for this lot, so it may have to be slightly adjusted or also get an area variance for that one. Otherwise, most of the comments were standard solar farm comments. Because they're so close together and tied together like the ones that you guys did on the turnpike, we also are considering doing one seeker review for both. But 2 separate site plans so that they can be approved and get separate permitting.
Right, we see obviously because of the subdivision based upon layouts that, right, it's one seeker that addresses 2 solar farms and the subdivision. So it's one environmental review, but approving the solar fields as 2 separate individual projects. But basically what we're looking at is, the FNUF property that says, you really would never know that field's there unless you wander off into the woods, because really a lot of this area here, the wooded area, the wetland does extend, out all along Route 22 here. But again, looking at a 5 megawatt, and the difference between the 5 and the 6 is you have DC power versus AC power. So the conversion from DC to AC basically gets you a 5 megawatt AC facility here, and then a 0.5 megawatt AC facility here. Both of them would interconnect. You have an existing power line that runs through here. That we basically, the substation is right here. So it's a nice project because it is immediately adjacent to the substation. So there's no real line improvements necessary. So we've designed it based upon the 75-foot buffer and utilizing just the open fields, not trying to cut any of the trees down at all. We understand to move forward, there's obviously all the other stormwater and all the other decommissioning and the visuals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, we will be providing that additional information to you as the project moves forward. with detailed plan, but it's not really, it's just sketch. The project fully compliant with your current solar law, and this one, unlike some of the others, really is, when you look at the distance off of 22, the little access, you're behind all those houses. From Route 3, you have the existing residence and woods associated with that, so really you don't see any of this from any of the public view sheds.
Aaron, could you explain to them a little bit about why the Hart property didn't work out and why this one should theoretically work better than the previous one?
Nice egg. So the property across the street, so a little further to the north here, Nice Egg identifies zones and what's fed by what substation, etc. So what happened is the property right across the street here, Nice Egg identified the interconnection point as being a substation that's down further on Tom Miller Road, right by the mall. And what they did is that the existing lines cannot support the added power, so we would have to pay for basically a new transmission line from here to the substation, which with the cost of the land and a little over, a couple $1 million for the line upgrade, it really did not work out, basically based on the size of it, working around that house that was there, the configuration. So the size of it and the added cost of the interconnection didn't make that one viable. Where here, we're actually slightly larger and we have direct access to the substation. So it's less offsite improvements, or actually no offsite improvements.
Are these fixed?
These are fixed. So they're right. Fixed tilt is what they call it. So they have a fixed angle facing the south. Right, they do not track.
I've got a question for you guys. So I'm not against solar, but I just feel like every time we see a project, it's just in this location that I feel like is just not a good fit for solar. Has this, we did some rezoning, right? Or you guys are talking about a solar overlay?
We didn't change the zoning necessarily, but we did preclude it from town center.
This is right on the edge, right, of Route 3, where development can still go. It's very residential here. Obviously, we have a mix of, industrial, commercial, but I don't know. It just seems like it's really stunting any.
As a brief, a brief aside about how we ended up really working hard to come up with regulations that worked for a lot of different interests. So we looked at a bunch of things, R2 that served as public water, public sewer, because we had shared the concerns, if land has public water, public utilities, should we reserve that and not have it be for solar?
100%. Key corridors, right?
When we ended up researching it, what we found is there's actually a lot of R2 land that does have, say, public water, but maybe it's not feasible for certain types of development.
Sure.
And so where we ended afterwards, and we could pull the lot, was identifying a geographic boundary that we call town center that actually includes more than town center. That was part of the recent town center zoning. It actually goes all the way to 374 Tom Miller Road, so it's quite a bit of geographic, but we realized that picking a zone wasn't going to work, R2, R1, because the zones don't correlate with our pathways of development or public services sometimes. So now there is a geographic zone, but it's not perfect. So
I protected the highest and best use
the
Does
town
this have public utilities?
waters.
There is water.
Just water.
Water would be available along 22, or I
I
don't.
think sewer's
actually
on the
not
south side
along
and
Route 3.
stops somewhere in here.
Sewer ends at BHSN.
Sewer stops right here-ish.
Yeah, it's just tough because the town is a lot of sprawl, but it's still kind of dense sprawl versus Moors, right? So that's why Nice Egg wants to come here, because that's where all the substations are, but it's not prime for.
Yeah, Jess worked multiple maps. We worked multiple maps. We talked with the town board multiple times, and at the end, a geographic location was picked, knowing that there's always one more lot, right?
Yeah.
So we picked a pretty geometrically normal polygon. The other version of that would have been, little.
Because also if we got too
Parcels off of
rural,
that.
then there was no infrastructure for solar. So then we were basically banning solar. We didn't want to do that either. The town board did not have an appetite for that.
That's it. I guess that's a better way to put it. But you should check out the final map in the law, because it is a pretty.
Was that
big-
sent to us?
Yeah, I think.
I
so.
don't know if it was sent to you guys, but it's on the website. I can send it.
We can give it
If you could send it to us, that'd be awesome.
That's a little bit of the backstory. So there is a geographic location where it's just flat out prohibited now, and it's a pretty large area.
And we pretty significantly increased the lack of, like the limit clearing and the setbacks are now the minimum 75 rather than the buffer piece. Now it's just 75 no matter what.
No matter what district, a minimum of 75-foot buffer from other
The town of
properties.
Champlain just did that too. It's a good idea.
I think it made a lot of it straightforward. We also changed the public environmental benefit fee because that got a little complicated.
Sure.
So now it's just $2,500 per acre of solar development.
Rather than associated with it.
The market
Market
value.
Percentage, right?
Doesn't seem to be inhibiting.
As long as there's free money out there, they're gonna build it. Other
County had
questions?
made comments that they were worried we were discouraging it.
Well, maybe not discouraging, just regulating it, right?
It's just tough because, the idea of trying to put it in the area that needs to be used.
Right, it
You know,
doesn't.
to put it way out in the middle of nowhere, you
There's
lose
not
so
the
much of
subsidy.
it to transport it where it needs to go. It's not.
Here doesn't make sense because of, use.
Transporting the power uses power.
But,
difficult.
and then there's not substations. It's
Right.
a trick.
It is
It's,
tricky. It's a giver and
I
take.
know,
That's
see,
kind
I
of why
would
we like
be
the
a
little ones. The little ones are a little bit easier.
Mecca for
to
housing.
digest.
It's actually, I've looked at it for housing, and the problem is just when you look at what you have for access points, with this being wet, coming in, by the time you get here to do lots, it's a fine line, because, right now, where, like Tommy Lineville's project on Cumberland Head, it's kind of on hold, because the cost for infrastructure right now is so high, it's almost impossible to recoup your investment on the sale of just the land. You almost have to build the houses to get your money that is. So it's, with this having longer roads, it's very hard. And when the wooded areas are primarily wet pockets, really because we're on on-site septic there, it's, makes it more difficult, and it's a tough one. It's funny because it's a nice field, but it is funny that you really don't know it's there unless you go look for it.
it's a dramatic piece of land when you are looking around. You realize you've driven around that quadrant so many times and you've never known a field is back.
So did the FNUFs used to
You
hang
won't
that?
know now either.
Right, you do. You do have that power line. There is an existing power line that runs through here. So
I was just gonna say, when the FNUF farm was functioning, did they hay that? Is that why the
it was
FNUF
just
sold it?
as we've always said, we see these little woodlands in the middle of the farms. There's a reason why the farmer didn't farm it, because
It's a swamp.
any farmer who has land is going to maximize his.
It's either an island or a swamp.
Aaron, do you want to talk about whatever the conversation or solution was with the city water main?
Yeah, so all of the city's water drains through this lot, or is pumped through this lot. So their easements are a little unique. They basically, follow the existing line as it exists. So we're coordinating with the city utility to actually go locate that and tell us what it is. And it has the potential, it runs through here. And you kind of see the little clearings right here. Those are actually where they pop through. One actually goes up like this. So we're waiting for some field confirmation that may adjust, our array layout slightly. So that's obviously something we need to address before we come back to a detailed plan.
And these sites are typically gated, correct? Like a locked gate.
Yes.
So how
They're
would the
fenced
city
off.
gain access? They would just have to call it
Yep.
every time?
It was, yeah. So similarly, like we have that situation, the other ones that were gated, we actually have Knox box on them all. So that way the fire department has access, and we can do the same thing for the city utility, so they have access to get to their lines. Because supposedly they have a capital project coming to replace some of these, because some of these lines are late 1800s that nobody's touched in 150 years. So
The deferred maintenance.
they're actually scared to go locate them. So
Maybe worse when you open them, actually, so.
Other questions? There's no public hearing. Motion to accept resolution 24-14.
So move.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Roll call. It was James and
Turn
Elena.
out the emergency.
You think you're coming here?
I heard something before the report downstairs.
Oh,
Oh.
Yeah.
you want to adjourn?
Anyway.
If we need to rent.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Jake Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Harry Zedico.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, I didn't think you actually thought it was here. That's. Item 11, solar power network, 0.5 megawatt site plan, and special use permit, 2024. Request to construct a 0.5 megawatt non-residential solar farm with a 16-foot wide gravel access road. Related site improvements subject to town of Plattsburgh solar local law. Located on Route 3 with public water, private sewer, zoned R2, tax map parcel number 205.4-3-38, owner Rose Fanuff, applicant Solar Power Network, engineers RMS, and it's a sketch plan review. Jessica again?
Basically, everything we just saw again,
Except,
it's just a little piece associated with it, so. Again, separated just for permitting processes, but again, environmentally, we'd be looking at it as one large project, so.
Questions from the board? Looks like, motion to accept resolution 24-15.
So moved.
Second.
Jimmy Blake,
yes,
James Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Tamer,
Yes.
Harry Zedico.
Yes. Item 12, PM Leary Site Plan 2024, request to utilize a portion of a parcel as a contractor storage yard. Located on Route 22 with public water and private sewer zoned SC. Tax map parcel number 232.3-7.22, owner applicant Patrick Leary, engineers RMS, and this one's just a sketch plan review. Jessica?
So, wanted to show you guys for reference, this is Leary's, you can see from 22. This is the parcel that is proposed. The only thing you notice when you drive by is the driveway. You can see a little bit of the railroad tracks, but you wouldn't be able to see any of this. And then obviously our river trail is behind that. Zone service center. And then this is just to show you how much is going on at that site. Mr. Leary owns a lot of businesses and is very busy. So this lot across the street seems like an obvious solution to help mitigate some of the issues going on at his current site. There wasn't a lot of important comments, mostly the standard comments. There was just a couple comments about setbacks and stockpiles and public road frontage. Unfortunately, I-87 does not count as public road, although it's a publicly owned road because you cannot get access from it. And then there was just a comment to kind of show how one site will remedy the other, like what is going to actually get moved off of the existing PM Leary site.
So as just mentioned, right, you have obviously the existing railroad crossing here. Believe it or not, that is Carbide Road. So that actually aligns here, and you can actually see it used to cross right there and went north of Schluter, and that is the paper road of Carbide Road that when the state did all their takings left this little piece here. But the site had been used for several years. There was basically a large fill operation that took place when they were regrading next to the flight line. FAA made them take away some of the bank next to the flight line. So they filled a lot of the site with that material. So it's been used for, basically soil stockpiling for years. And what Mr. Leary is looking to do, what's unique about it is this little bump out here. It was actually the taking for the Carbide Road overpass that never got built. They just diverted the road around. So Mr. Leary would utilize, his lands for his, obviously continue with the stockpiles of the material, and then move, majority of his equipment and porta potties and things like that over here. So basically utilize solely as a contractor storage yard. The existing railroad here along with leaving, buffer of some natural vegetation around it. Really, I don't think you'll see it. Maybe right now with all the foliage gone, you may get a little bit of a glimpse you drive by, but honestly, you're not going to see much of anything. So, obviously we're going to work through the detailed plan. Again, there's no permanent structures being constructed, so it's just the storage of material. We understand the town's concern of allowing this to be used and not somehow tying the other side in. If you go back to the aerial, something that we just need to work back with the codes department is that, this building was built, in the 80s and was Plattsburgh construction. And this isn't 100% accurate, but the property line is about 17 feet off the corner of that building. So, you go back into the aerial photographs into the late 70s, early 80s, this parking lot back to back has always existed. So really, we just have to work with the planning and codes office as into, yes, if we move this stuff, we can have it over there, we'll take it out of here, but, there's a fine line of, does that mean we can't use the parking lot anymore? And that has existed forever just for parking of cars, so if you have employee parking there or visitor parking. So that's something that we just have to kind of hammer out with codes and figure out what restrictions would be placed on this lot and how they would carry over, because there's definitely a balance. I think, the goal is to clean it up, but then to clean it up and say, okay, now you can't have parking within 25 feet of your property line. That means my whole entire parking lot technically would not comply with current standards. And obviously you can't own a building without parking. So it's just a balance of what would still be allowed to use when we do move a lot of the other stuff out of the way. So that's something that we'll have to work out, and hopefully we'll come to some mutually agreeable level that would allow us to move forward with a detailed plan for this across the street.
So what's the end goal? Is it to just move all the stuff over,
When
but
we,
not take it parking lot away, right?
when we met with Mr. Larry, we mostly talked about this portion, this northern tip portion, because this hasn't always been there, this little access. And then this portion, because obviously when we go back to like 2008 aerials, when the site was a lot smaller and used a lot smaller, it was mostly just this building and this parking area.
Right. It was actually built as Plattsburgh construction when the base was active. So if you actually look back at the 80s, he had material storage. So, it's been, I won't deny, he's been, Route 22 is look at the right of way, it does some very strange things. And you look at the railroad right of way, it bounces around, so it's, it's been utilized that way historically. Right. It's just figuring out that language. Our goal is to get rid of, so that the heavy equipment would be across the street, all the porta potties would be across the street. We wouldn't have any stockpiles of sand and gravel that you see over here now. That would all go away. So it's really just figuring out that language of what would be allowed and not allowed.
And it would just be for like visitor and employee parking.
Right. Right. In the same regard, we don't want the employees parking. Some will, but parking there and having to walk 1,000 feet back to the office. So it's just figuring out that balance, and then we hope that we can come to an agreement with codes and to what that language is and go from there.
Yeah, and we're happy to work with them. My initial reaction is things that are off-site or crossing property lines, need to be remedied. Things that would be considered a contractor storage yard and are occurring within the DOT right of way or crossing property lines. But those are the easier things to remedy. Things like parking, I think we'll easily be able to work with the applicant.
We may agree, but there's other parties that we have to bring in also.
That may be true.
Well, and then there's, down the road, 30, 40, 50 years when most of us are dead, DOT could come back and say.
You'll still be here working.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Young.
DOT could come through and say, you have to get rid of all of this, you can't have parking, who knows? So.
Well, that has nothing to do with this today, though.
No, it's just a matter of we're not technically supposed to approve things off site without that property.
Right. You're technically not approving, with this project, you're not, but you're not guaranteeing a resolution.
Right. Well, I guess it should be pointed out that we've issued, letters of violation or order to remedy for the existing.
Well, that's a whole different.
So if we considered it remedied, theoretically, anything offsite wouldn't exist. So that's why we need to figure that out.
Okay.
But happy to work with.
So we can proceed for now.
Yes.
Right. It's more working, right? It says it's more of a code legal issue, just to make sure.
Right.
There's no reason not to proceed with the requested, sketch plan tonight, though.
Any other questions from the board? No public hearing. Looking for a motion to accept resolution 24-16.
So moved.
Second. Kathy Blake,
Yes.
Ann Sherman,
Yes.
Elena Senior, Sarah Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Looking for a motion to close the meeting. There we go. That's it. Thank you. You're welcome.
You move it right along, no problems.
That was amazing.
Yay.
These beautiful pictures.
I do, I'll take them.
They are nice.
They are, I love that.